Hello and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a deck profile for the brand new Baby Roaring Moon, combined with some other ancient Pokemon featuring like the Flutter Mane, the Brute Bonnet, and the Koraidon. This is a pretty interesting new single prize deck that's going to be releasing in Temporal Forces. So the new Roaring Moon for 2 Darkness Energies, he deals 70 damage, which already on its own is actually not that bad. Because you're going to be killing Comfey, Ralts, Pidgey, Charmander, a lot of really, really good basic Pokemon just for 2 Darkness Energy and 140 HP basic Pokemon, which isn't bad. And then the attack does an additional 10 damage for every ancient card in your discard pile. And it is important to note ancient card, not ancient Pokemon. So you're counting the Earthen Vessels, the Booster Capsules, the Sada, everything, every single ancient card that has the ancient tag in your discard pile. Wormwood's attack will be doing 10 more damage. This can actually reach some pretty decent numbers when you have a lot access to as many ancient cards as we do. So we actually have the 4 copies of Wormwood, of course, 4 copies of Flutter Mane, which is a pretty interesting Pokemon that is an ancient Pokemon, obviously. And its ability says that when it's active, your opponent's active Pokemon has no abilities, which can be really good. That turns off pretty much anything that's in the active. That makes sense. If a Charizard's in the active, it can't Flutter Mane. If a Pidgeot's in the active, it can't Quick Search. If a Curly's in the active, it can't Refinement. Just pretty annoying ability to play around. And the attack actually isn't bad. For 3 colorless, you deal 90 damage, and then I believe you put 2 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon that you like. Which is a pretty decent attack as well. That can set up to knockout. So 90 damage isn't bad either when your Wormwood can reach some decent numbers as well. We also, of course, have 2 copies of Brute Bonnet, which just is here for some more ancient cards in the discard pile, but you can just put them on the bench and then attach a booster capsule and get access to Toxic Powder to boost your damage just a little bit, which is nice. And you can actually get 2 copies of the new Koraidon, which is that Dragon-type ancient Pokemon, which has an attack for fighting and a colorless. You deal 30 damage for each of your ancient Pokemon in play, which is a pretty nice higher damaging attack that you can pull off early in the game. You don't have as many ancient cards in the discard pile where your Wormwood will be hitting that, so you could just bench the Koraidon, maybe deal 150, 160, which is pretty good as well, and it's not hard to pull off just a Sada and a manual attachment, and you could be attaching with this Koraidon. This does mean we have to play Fighting Energy, but that is not that big of a deal. We can just play a couple of them, and then we have access to them via Earthen Vessel as well. And at the very worst, Koraidon is just ancient Pokemon that we can throw away and do 10 more damage with our Roaring Moon. We have 1 copy of Greninja, which there's also an argument to be made to play Radiant Sneasler, but I just want to have that little bit of extra consistency before I make any changes to the deck list. So we're having the Greninja in here. Getting energy on the discard pile is pretty important, so we can, of course, have access to Sada and Dark Patch. So we'll be playing Greninja, but once again, there is an argument to be made to play Sneasler that can actually do some pretty decent damage buffs. Supporters is pretty standard. We have 4 copies of Sada and 4 copies of this new supporter that I forget the name of, but it is an ancient card and it is the exact same effect as Hapu, which is look at the top 6 cards of your deck, put 2 of them in your hand, and discard the other 4, which as an ancient card itself is already pretty decent, but then you can also throw away other ancient cards that you don't want to have in your hand and just put the discard pile, and then Roaring Wind will do more damage. So it's a pretty nice supporter. That and Sada is just a pretty solid engine. Sada, of course, being our energy acceleration. 1 copy of Boss's Orders. And then our items, we have a fair amount because we're running a Pokestop engine. We have 4 copies of Earthen Vessel, which is just a really good card. And it might be easy to forget that it actually is an ancient card. So you could throw away your Earthen Vessels and deal more damage. As well as the Earthen Vessel, when you play them, also you have to discard a card. So that's more ways to get ancient cards in the discard pile. 4 copies of Ultra Ball. Obviously, we want to have access to our Pokemon, especially for Koraidon if we want to fill our board, so we can attack with that. Ultra Ball allows us to find our Pokemon, obviously, but also can discard more ancient cards. Nest Ball just finds our Pokemon. Then we have some 2 of item cards, being 2 copies of Switch, so we can navigate our Flutter Mane in and out of the active. Brute Bonnet does have a pretty chunky retreat cost of 3, so we will probably want to move that at some point as well. 2 copies of Dark Patch for a little bit more energy acceleration for our Roaring Moon. We, of course, have our Sada, but, some turns of the game we're going to have to play the other ancient supporters, so we have access to our Dark Patch. The energy switches here, just so it's a little bit easier for you to get off your attacks. You can 1 Sada and an energy switch, and you can attack with a Roaring Moon with no manual attachment. It allows you to attack with Flutter Mane when you have no energy already on it as well, so energy switch is pretty decent. 1 copy of Super Rod, so we can recycle Pokemon, because we know we only have access to 4 of our Roaring Moons And we're also going to want to be throwing some of them away potentially. So being able to super out them back, so we have access to more of those, is pretty handy. Our A spec in the list is going to be the new Ancient A spec, which is an item that when you play, you get to draw a card for each of your ancient Pokemon to play. So it's a little bit obviously more synergy with Koraidon there, and another ancient card you can throw away, and it just helps you kind of turbo through the deck and find the more ancient cards and discard them. 4 copies of Ancient Booster Energy Capsule, and then 4 copies of Pokestop. So we have an aggressive way to not only find our item cards that will really make our deck function, but also it can discard like a couple ancient cards here and there for a little bit more damage. Our energy consists of 8 basic darkness energy and 2 basic fighting. Of course, we do need the fighting energy for our Koraidon. And then the darkness energies, we do have access to Dark Patch and Sawdust, so we can afford to go a little bit skimpier on that count. Obviously, also Earth and Vessel to search them out. So we have a pretty good amount of ways to both accelerate and find those darkness energies. So even if we do have to power up, 4, maybe 5 Roaring Moons, we do have the energies for that with our Sawdust and our Dark Patches. So that's going to be the Decklist, guys. This is actually a pretty interesting new single price deck. I'm always kind of a fan of single price decks like this. My all-time kind of favorite styles decks are the single price decks and the stage 2 decks that are kind of like the convoluted stage 2 decks. I also find really fun. So I'm really excited to try this one out. I also imagine a lot of people who enjoy playing Lost Box or Regis will also probably want to try this one out because it's a pretty interesting new single price deck. But that's going to be it for the video, guys. If you guys liked it, don't forget to like. If you guys want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.